Good evening. It's been a long and difficult day. Tonight we have Commissioner Phelps, Secretary Coop. We're going to give you an update of where we've been through the day and where we think we are now. Our focus throughout the day has been on the safety of our correctional employees. Will continue to be our focus. I've talked to their families, and as you can imagine, it's been very difficult for them as well. We have put all the resources that we have to bear to get our employees out. And with that, I'd like to bring Commissioner Phelps up, and then Secretary Coop to give you a status, an update.
I'm Perry Phelps, Commissioner of Delaware Department of Correction. I'm going to give you a timeline as to the events of today. At approximately 10:38 hours, a Code 3 and a Code 1, which was a major disturbance involving staff, was called in Charlie Building, C Building, Charlie Building. At the time, we believed about 5 staff were being held hostage. Our DOC, emergency response team, was activated. At approximately 14:25, the first staff member was released. And approximately 17:20 hours, 8 inmates were released. At 19:57 hours, 1 staff member was released, and that's just prior to our arrival here, along with 19 inmates. At this time, we believe there are still 2 staff members being held in Charlie Building. I will now turn it over to Secretary Coop to talk about our joint efforts.
Good evening. I'm Secretary Robert Coop of the Delaware Department of Safety and Homeland Security. And as the Commissioner detailed, after that first activation, the Delaware State Police responded and also started to provide resources. We reached out to our federal partners, the FBI, who are also contributing to this investigation, and the ongoing release of our staff members that are inside. If there's anything that we can offer as far as answering questions, we'll try to do that. As you know, it's an ongoing investigation, so we're going to be very limited in what we can tell you. Commissioner Phelps has already outlined the timeline.
Could you, some clarification?
Yes, sir.
This is the first we're hearing of any inmates, at least inmates are being held. How many at one point were being held, and how many are being now? From the numbers you're saying, 2 employees held hostage, and are they corrections officers or counselors?
Yes, sir. So let me go back to I'll start with your last question, and we'll work backwards from there. So initially, what was reported to the press was that we had 5 staff members that were being held hostage. That number has been adjusted to 4. One of those staff members, just shortly before we came here, was identified as doing well. He was not a hostage. He was assigned duties there that day or today, but he was located in a different part of the prison because we were in lockdown. So that takes us to 4 staff members that were held hostage. 2 have been released, so 2 remain hostage. As far as the inmate status regarding their release, at this time the investigation is ongoing, so we don't know the dynamics of the takeover, and we don't know the dynamics of if any inmates were held against their will, or if these inmates simply requested to be released and were released by whoever is in charge for the inmates.
Do you know how many of those were holding these employees?
Not that I can disclose at this time, sir.
Sir, I'm David Spud with CBS in Philadelphia. Can
Yes,
you
sir.
talk to us a little bit about, do you believe that these inmates are armed? Are you talking with them? What can you tell us about what you believe is going on inside right now? I mean,
Yes,
the big question,
so
are they armed?
Yes, sir. Well, let me ask your last question was, are we communicating with them? Yes, we are, sir. And we're communicating with them right now through a radio that was a correctional officer radio, and that has been the main form of communication today. What I would point out is that the inmates in this building do have access to television, so they may be watching this broadcast live at this time. So that's another form of communication that they have.
What would you like to tell them if they're watching?
We'd like to tell them that we want to resolve this peacefully.
Excuse me, Joe Johns with CNN.
Yes, sir.
These inmates apparently have demands, some of which have actually made their way out into the public. There apparently are issues about education. There's something about training of officers. There sounds like specific grievances, perhaps, with things going on in the prison system. Is there any way for the government to make any assurances to them that some of their needs will be addressed in an attempt to get this resolved?
Once this matter is resolved safely, then that will be the time to talk. The inmates want to talk about conditions, privileges, those types of things. Yes, that dialogue can take place, but none of that starts until we have the safe return of our staff.
What do you have to say about the audio tape that was released to a local newspaper? What do you make of that? Can that be authenticated?
Can you tell me what that is, sir? I'm not familiar with it.
There was an audio tape released to a local newspaper in Delaware, someone calling from inside the prison saying that they were being held hostage. Are you aware of that?
I'm not able to comment on that, sir. I haven't been briefed on it.
Also, in that article, it seems to say that there was almost a political agenda on the part of some of those people who were holding people hostage. Are you aware
Yeah, and we can't speculate on what the motives are at this time. That's all going to be part of the investigation.
Have they indeed made demands though for phone lines, access to phone lines?
We're working in the negotiation process. There is discussion about phones in the negotiation process, but I can't expand any further at this time.
Can you tell us about the condition of all four of the hostages, the two who were released and the two who have not been?
I can only articulate on the two that were just released. I know the one that was released first had non-life-threatening injuries. Our second officer that was just released, I can't update because he's being checked by medical at this time.
How about the inmates?
I'm sorry?
How about the inmates that were released?
So the 19, we were not briefed on the way over here as to any status on them or any concerns.
So was it just
You say the
19 or
inmates
is
were
it
released. What do you mean
27
they were
total
released? Could they possibly be involved in the hostage?
Randall, I have two questions. The young lady was still talking. I'll come back to you, sir.
Just so I get the total right, is it 27 inmates total that were released?
Yes, there was 8 in the first group, and those inmates were released, just the 8 inmates. So the first officer was released, as Commissioner Phelps described. Then those 8 were released, and then just before we came out here, 1 correctional officer and the additional 19 inmates. When we say release, sir, we mean released from C building. So we're not speculating whether they were actually being held against their will. All we can say is they came out from the building.
What kind of
Sir, can
inmates
you
does
tell at this
the
point that
building
the
C
proper
house?
protocol was followed with regards to the initial person that went for that initial call? Because how is it that something like this could happen where the workers were overpowered and pretty much held?
And that will be the focus of the investigation.
Have there been any specific threats made against the hostages?
And not that I can talk about at this time, sir.
Excuse me, sir, what can you tell us about staffing at the facility? Was there a staffing shortage?
I can't report on what the staffing levels were today, and I don't think the commissioner's prepared to do that today either. That'll be part of the investigation as well.
Are you familiar with anything called the Vaughn Rebellion? Does that ring a bell to you at all?
I'm going to look to the commissioner to see if he's heard any of that.
No, I'm not familiar with that.
It's a growing hashtag online that seems to be a growing support for these inmates because of the way they're being treated. It's growing support, and with the rhetoric going on, I didn't know if you knew about this and had any comment on it.
No, I'm not familiar, and I can't comment on it because I'm
Commissioner,
not
just to
familiar.
follow up on his question about the Vaughn Rebellion, it seems that there were some red flags or at least some warning signs in some published reports and also some dialogue that's existed with some of your employees, current and former. What do you make of that?
Again, I'm not familiar with the Vaughn Rebellion, nor am I familiar with any employees that's been involved with it, so I really can't comment on it.
Sir, can you comment on the tape that was released to a newspaper? I mean, there was a tape released, a newspaper playing it in Delaware that somebody was inside against their will. Can you comment on it?
Well,
Are
actually,
you aware of it?
as you heard Secretary Coop say earlier, I'm not aware of any recording that went out, so I can't really comment on that.
You're not even aware
There
of
was a
it?
phone call to a local newspaper with someone's demands being read from inside of the prison.
Okay.
So I believe what.
Right. I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah. So, now that you've phrased it more specifically, yes. I am aware of that, and that is part of our investigation as well, as to what was said.
Are you understaffed at this institution?
It's any correctional facility, as I can say, we're doing staffing analysis right now to determine the amount of staff that we need. We have supported the General Assembly, supported the Governor's Office, and that's what we're trying to determine now, and that was in the works prior to this event.
Have you asked for more staff before this happened?
We are constantly recruiting to try to fill our vacancies, and we're in the middle of that now. As I said, we're trying to do the staffing analysis to see exactly what we need.
How many vacancies do you have currently?
I'm not prepared to say that right now.
Is the facility overcrowded in a sense that you might find yourself or do find yourself, facing court action?
I can't comment on that right now, sir.
Thank you very much for your questions. Thank you very much. We'll update you as we get the information. Thank you. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah, one more.
Yes, sir. Good evening. My name is Jeff Klopp. I'm the president of the Correctional Officers Association. Just real quick, we want to thank the Governor's Office, Commissioner, and all the resources that have been brought in this evening and working very hard to come to a peaceful resolution of this issue. And right now, we're just currently praying for the safety of all the staff members that are in the C building at James Vaughn Correctional Center. Thank you.
You have the second officer, how is he doing? You have to get on that.